I recently moved out, and my mother-in-law called to cheerily let me know how tough it must be without a house to call my own. Her words didn't bother me. I merely responded with an indifferent, She went on to wish me well in my new home and ended the conversation with a stern directive never to return to her house, especially since I was supposedly heading for a divorce. She then hung up abruptly. Left alone in the airport, I wasn't angry but unexpectedly felt a burst of joy. I pumped my fist slightly, celebrating this small personal victory, and walked off with renewed energy in my step. My name is Jessica, and my husband Kevin was assigned to work abroad right after our wedding, which meant we had to live apart temporarily. Despite the physical distance soon after our marriage, our relationship was strong, rooted in 6 years of dating and living together before we got married. I trusted Kevin completely and wasn't concerned about his fidelity. My main hope was for his health and well-being while he was overseas. Life was relatively calm, albeit a bit lonely, but then a new challenge emerged when my mother-in-law decided to move into our home. Recently single, she declared her intentions to keep an eye on me to prevent infidelity, something she suffered from her ex-husband. She moved in without our permission, turning my daily life into an ordeal of constant scrutiny. Feeling cornered, I reached out to Kevin for support. He tried persuading his mother to leave, but she was obstinate. "Kevin trusts you too much, Jessica. I know a woman like you will end up cheating," she would say without any basis, turning every day into a torment. She wouldn't cook for me or share any food she prepared, and she never bothered with groceries, using up whatever was in the fridge for herself. This ongoing surveillance made my life unbearable. Desperate, I turned to Kevin for help. He repeatedly urged his mother to leave, but she refused to listen. "Kevin trusts you too much, Jessica. I can tell a woman like you will cheat," she accused baselessly, giving me a headache every day. Regardless of what I did, she linked it to infidelity. My mother-in-law wouldn't even prepare dinner for me. She would cook for herself using food from the fridge, but never left any for me. Moreover, she didn't go grocery shopping herself. She used the ingredients that were meant for both of us, adding to the daily strain. I had bought groceries for my cooking only to find them missing when I returned home. Despite my complaints, my mother-in-law either ignored them or simply didn't care. "I suppose you had dinner out with your boyfriend since you're cheating," she would suggest, which infuriated me to no end. The situation worsened during my job's busy periods. I often came home late, and each time I tried to cook, she would stir up trouble. "You must be cheating if you come home at this hour and leave your mother-in-law alone," she accused. The constant accusations were so stressful that I started feeling unwell. "Please leave, I'm not cheating. I truly love Kevin," I pleaded with her. But Kevin, unable to return to Canada due to his commitments, did his best from afar to convince his mother. Yet her responses were disheartening. "So you want me to leave that badly? You must be cheating," she would conclude, leaving me sighing in despair. One day off, I went to meet a friend for some respite. Predictably, my mother-in-law accused me of cheating again and followed me clumsily, hiding behind lampposts and the brick wall of her house as she tried to catch me in the act. I decided to ignore her antics. At the cafe, I met my friend Linda, who has been a close ally since our student days. Linda, known for her tough demeanor and androgynous street style, was quick to notice when a flash of light blinked from my mother-in-law's camera. "What's that?" Linda asked, suspicious. Seeing the humor in the situation, I explained that my mother-in-law might have mistaken her for a man because of her style, which made Linda burst into laughter. To tease my mother-in-law further, Linda jokingly held my hand, and every time my mother-in-law took a picture, Linda would lean closer and make a show of it. Each flash from the camera was met with more laughter from us. I checked in the mirror at one point and saw my mother-in-law, Seemingly thrilled by the spectacle she believed she was capturing, her excitement visible even from a distance, the situation had become almost comically absurd. After watching my mother-in-law's clumsy spying attempts, I felt a rush of relief from the tension and decided to enjoy some light shopping with my friend Linda. Unsurprisingly, my mother-in-law followed me home again, ducking behind lampposts and walls as if we were playing a giant game of red light, green light. I indulged in the game, darting around to see her scramble into hiding. It was strangely entertaining. Once I got home and began to remove my shoes, my mother-in-law burst through the door barely a moment behind me, excitedly brandishing a disposable camera. "Jessica, I finally have proof of your infidelity. I'm sending all of these to Kevin, so be prepared," she announced triumphantly. "Oh, really? Good luck with that," I replied nonchalantly. She didn't appreciate my calm demeanor and spent the rest of the day hovering around me like an annoying bee, insisting she had caught me red-handed. "It's clear proof of infidelity. Your face and his are both in these photos," she claimed. I kept my cool. "That's fine," I assured her. While it was unfortunate that she mistook Linda's androgynous appearance for a man, Kevin had met Linda several times before our wedding. Even if my mother-in-law sent him the photos, Kevin would easily recognize her as just a friend. As I dealt with my mother-in-law's childish antics, an unexpected business trip came up, requiring me to travel overseas. It was disappointing that I wouldn't meet Kevin, as it was in a different country, but it couldn't be avoided. I informed my mother-in-law about my trip. Though I didn't seek her opinion, she somehow construed it as a chance for a romantic escapade. While I was packing, she smirked and commented, "It'll be a big problem if you come back pregnant from your romantic getaway. Kevin hasn't seen you in a while, so it won't be easy to pretend the baby is his." Her wild imagination rendered any serious conversation pointless. "Yes, indeed. But remember, it's a business trip, not a romantic getaway," I responded, dismissing her baseless speculations with a wave of my hand, determined not to let her fantasies disturb my focus on the upcoming professional commitment. After a hectic business trip that seemed to blur by with its non-stop pace, I returned to Canada, thoroughly exhausted. Even my boss, who had been on the trip as well, looked visibly drained as she headed to her own home. I had planned to unwind a bit by purchasing some duty-free sweets before heading back, so I settled on a bench to relax for a moment. That's when my phone rang. It was Linda on the other end, and she had some unexpected news. Jessica, welcome back. There's something I need to tell you. Your mom came to the company on family business," she said. The company Linda's family ran wasn't the type that just anyone would visit, so hearing that my mother-in-law had shown up there instantly got under my skin. Linda explained how she dealt with the situation and asked if she had been too harsh. I reassured her with a laugh. "No, I think it was just right." Just as I was about to hang up and collect myself to leave, my phone rang again. This time it was my mother-in-law. "Jessica, you should be back from your trip now. Did you enjoy your affair trip?" she inquired sarcastically. "It wasn't an affair trip, and no, I didn't enjoy it. It was all work," I responded dryly. Unfazed, she continued, "Well, I've already sent Kevin the evidence photos." I merely answered with an indifferent, "I see," which seemed to please her in her misguided effort. Then she dropped a bombshell. "I moved, so your house is no longer there. I sold the old house, so you must be struggling without a place to go back to. But hang in there," she chirped, clearly enjoying the moment. I gave a disinterested, "huh," in response, to which she cheerfully added, "Enjoy your life in your new home. Thank you, and please never come back to our house. After all, you're going to be divorced soon." After she hung up, I stood at the airport for a while, absorbing her words. But instead of anger, a sense of relief and joy gradually filled my heart. I clenched my fist in a small victory gesture and started towards what I still considered my home, albeit with a lighter step. Of course, when I reached the house that my mother-in-law claimed to have sold, I noticed many of my things were missing, presumably taken out by her. Despite this, the relief of being away from her drama was palpable, and I was ready to start anew, unfettered by her antics. Acknowledging the situation as a messy, albeit unexpected, resolution, I took the first steps to secure my newfound independence. I called a locksmith immediately to change the front door locks, ensuring my mother-in-law couldn't re-enter the home she claimed to have sold. Feeling a sense of victory, I sprawled out in the living room, basking in the comfort and freedom I had just secured. In a burst of elation, I made a fist pump and shouted, "I did it!" inside the quiet of my newly reclaimed space. However, the calm was short-lived. The next day, my phone rang, and it was my mother-in-law on the other line, sounding panicked and flustered. I couldn't help but ask, a bit maliciously, "What's wrong?" She was trembling as she explained her predicament. "I thought I sold the house, but it turns out I didn't. It seems I borrowed money without realizing it. Debt collectors are coming, and it's really scary," she stammered. It turned out that the company she had mistakenly believed was run by Linda's parents was indeed a real estate firm, but it had a shady side operation as a loan sharking business. Linda later told me that they had informed her that the house couldn't be sold. It was in Kevin's name, and she couldn't just sell it on her own. After being turned down by all the real estate agencies she approached, she ended up at the company run by Linda's parents in her desperate attempt to unload the property. In her panic, my mother-in-law signed what she thought was a sales agreement, but was a promissory note binding her to repay $1,200 every day. She managed to scrape together enough to appease the debt collectors for the day, but the relentless daily demand was beyond her capacity. Now, desperate and cornered, she turned to me for help, crying out, "Please, Jessica, you have to help me. The debt collectors have been pounding at my door since dawn. It's terrifying. I can't sleep well." Despite the tumultuous relationship and her misguided actions, the gravity of her distress and the looming threat she faced brought a complex mix of emotions to the surface. Her desperate plea for help underscored the seriousness of the mess she had inadvertently created. I listened almost in disbelief as my mother-in-law detailed her financial recklessness. "I don't have much money left. I used what I borrowed to buy a new house, and now I have no savings at all. Please, I need you to transfer $12,000 to my account every week until I've paid off the debt," she pleaded. Assessing the enormity of her request, I responded, "Do you really think it's possible to ever pay off the company's debt? Even if we combine my income with Kevin's, it's not feasible to send $12,000 every week." Her desperation clear, she retorted, "What am I supposed to do then? It's not like there's a day job that pays $1,200 daily." Trying to lighten the mood, albeit half jokingly, I suggested, "Maybe you should talk to the company you borrowed from. They might even have some suggestions for a job." To my surprise, she took my offhand remark seriously. "Really? Then I'll go and see," she said before abruptly hanging up the phone. I sighed, thinking to myself about the unpredictable whirlwind she was bound to stir up. True to form, my mother-in-law soon visited the company, pleading for a job opportunity that could cover her daily dues. "I have no choice but to work because I have no money. Is there a simple and easy job where I can earn more than $1,200 a day?" she inquired desperately. Later, Linda filled me in on what happened next. The company found a role for her, but it was far from easy or simple. They employed her at a site where people, even the elderly, engaged in strenuous physical labor. The conditions were harsh. Employees lived in dilapidated shacks resembling employee dormitories, surrounded by barbed wire that made it look more like a prison than a workplace. They were even blindfolded and transported to and from work in a van, kept oblivious to their exact location. Linda, half joking yet with a hint of concern, mentioned, "She'll work off the debt eventually, if that day ever comes." She said this with a smile, but I couldn't help but feel a twinge of fear for the extreme situation my mother-in-law had found herself in. As the weeks rolled by without any word from her, Kevin's overseas assignment came to an end. The complexities of our family dynamics awaited his return, with new challenges and revelations that we would need to navigate together. When Kevin returned home, I filled him in on everything that had transpired. His response was somewhat resigned. "There's nothing we can do about my mom," he said. "All we can do is wish her a long life from afar." It was clear that Kevin had long harbored a complex relationship with his mother, who he found difficult to understand since his childhood. He tolerated her because she was his mother, but it seemed his patience had finally worn thin, especially given her continued baseless accusations against me, his wife. Curious, I asked Kevin if he had received the so-called evidence photos of my supposed infidelity. He casually replied, "Oh yeah," as if he had just remembered and pulled out a photo from his bag. "That's Linda, right? I have no idea why she would assume this was proof of infidelity." He explained that he had had a huge argument with his mom over the phone, telling her he would sever ties if she continued her accusations. She just wouldn't listen, and it annoyed me. But I thought this was a good picture, so I brought it home. Interestingly, my mother-in-law might have missed her calling in photography. The photo she took of Linda and me, captured from behind against a scenic backdrop, had an artistic flair, as though it belonged in a photo album. It was almost comical seeing Linda playfully making a peace sign behind her back, so typical of her. "We owe Linda a lot," Kevin said thoughtfully. "We should pay her a proper visit sometime soon. Just make sure you don't sign any documents she might try to get you to sign," he joked, reminding me of the absurd situation with my mother-in-law. Kevin and I chuckled together, relieved to finally be living as a newlywed couple should. As for my mother-in-law, we had no idea what had become of her, but we assumed she was still engaged in hard labor somewhere in the States. We felt we could probably find out her whereabouts if we asked Linda, but neither Kevin nor I had any desire to track her down. Life moved on for us in a blissful bubble. Kevin and I continued to enjoy our time together, and soon we welcomed our first child. Our days were filled with joy and the simple pleasures of our new family life.